LUNA and UST pools on Thorchain, Play to Earn Gaming is coming to Terra, and new pools on Loop Finance, plus a whole heap more. This is the Lunar Orbit podcast. My name is Gerry, and today is Tuesday, the 29th of March of 2022. So smash that like button and let's get into it. Okay guys, so the first thing I wanted to dive into today was Thorchain. This has been talked about and anticipated for a very long time, but finally it's gone live. And this tweet from Erik Voorhees goes into it really well. Those of you who don't know Erik, he's an OG Bitcoiner, but I wouldn't call him a Bitcoin maxi. He's pretty good for the whole space, really. He has a pretty balanced view, and I guess I would call him a decentralization maxi. So this tweet sums it up perfectly. LUNA and UST is now live on Thorchain. What does this mean? For the first time ever, you can trade directly between LUNA and Bitcoin, UST and ETH, or UST and USDC. No layer 1 trades, no intermediaries, no KYC, no borders, no limits. So Thorchain is allowing you to do native swaps between different blockchains and their assets. So there's only very limited pools that you can use, and LUNA and UST have essentially been spun up on there. So that's really, really important for our ecosystem. And again, it means people can trade from Bitcoin, straight from their Bitcoin wallet, into UST or to LUNA, and it doesn't actually go through any centralized intermediaries. There's no centralized exchanges. It's all done on the blockchain with native swaps, and it routes via Thorchain, which is one of the Cosmos blockchains. So really bullish news. It's been a big step for Thorchain. They've had an interesting period of growth to get to where they are. They've had a few issues, a few hacks, a few bugs, but that is all part of the game. And if they can prove themselves over the next few months, this could be incredibly bullish for them. And it's important for our ecosystem as well. There are rumors that potentially Thorchain could be used to onboard Bitcoin directly into the Bitcoin reserves that's going to be backing the UST peg, but that's completely unconfirmed, and it's probably a bit early for that until they prove themselves over a longer period of time. There's this great video from DanQR on Thorchain and how it all works. Really briefly, for every dollar of a new asset that gets deposited into Thorchain, so for every UST that goes on there needs to be at least $3 worth of the Thorchain token backing it, and same with LUNA. So people are speculating that the more assets that get deposited into Thorchain, into Rune, the more Rune token needs to be held and locked up to secure the system. So not financial advice, but a lot of people think that could be a bullish catalyst for Rune. So we'll see how that plays out over the next few months. So moving right along, there was this really interesting podcast from Kanav and Do Kwon talking all things DeFi and how it all relates to Terra. But there was one particular bit of it that really caught my attention. So I'm just going to play it for you now. It only goes for a few seconds. Let's give it a listen.
So, for example, in Korea, every single public gaming company, AAA publisher, is going to be in Web3 in 2022. A lot of those plays are going to be built on Terra.
So that was pretty darn bullish hearing that. That was on the 2nd of March. And then Do tweeted on the 10th of March, a C2X Metaverse launching on FTX. Okay, Metaverse, cool. FTX, right, that's Solana. Okay, interesting. It's interesting that Do's tweeting that. Wonder what's going on there. And then a few days later, on the 19th, Do's tweeted about it again, saying excited to back C2X World as it starts to stitch together the first composable world on Terra money. I'm like, oh, okay, this metaverse is going to be running on Terra, not Solana. Very interesting. And then on the same day, this tweet came out about C2X and their private raise, their seed round. And if you have a look at the names that are involved here, they're rather massive, and it's been valued at $500 million. This article here from Coindesk goes into it as well. And then also their own Medium post goes into it in further detail. But what's really interesting is that these guys are going to be building, C2X, it's going to be building exclusively on the Terra blockchain. If you have a look at some of these other names here, FTX, Jump Crypto, who of course Kanav is a part of, and he's also part of the Luna Foundation Guard, Animoca Brands, they're massive. They did a raise themselves in January. They raised $350 million with a $5 billion valuation. And C2X themselves have a $500 million valuation. So you can see the names behind here. There's some big players here very, very bullish that this is going to be building directly onto Terra, and they're going to be bringing a bunch of games across. And some of these games are going to be coming from traditional gaming, not just blockchain gaming. They're going to be coming from institutions that are trying to get over to blockchain gaming because they can see that that's where the growth is going to be. Very interesting stuff. I feel like that alone could be a significant catalyst for the demand for the blockchain for Terra. And it's very nice to have a blockchain-based gaming ecosystem that can basically use a US dollar stablecoin as its token rather than a volatile token like you see with Axie Infinity and their AXS token and the Smooth Love Potion token and how volatile it is. That doesn't work very well for play to earn gamers who are literally trying to earn an income. And if they can come across and use UST and then deposit that UST in Anchor and get some stable returns on it that they can run their life through, that makes a lot of sense, and it's going to be a lot more user-friendly for those people. It's also good for kids that are coming in and gaming. They're not playing with some volatile asset. They've got something that, is tied to a real-world currency, and I just think that that's a really good fit, the Terra blockchain, UST, and play-to-earn gaming. So it's going to be fascinating to see how that grows over the next few years. Before I continue, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Hi, I'm Gerry, host of the Lunar Orbit podcast, where I provide regular alpha and updates on all things Terra Luna. And if you enjoy this content, consider supporting the channel by smashing that like button, hitting subscribe, and hitting the notifications bell so you get all my videos in a timely fashion. Okay, moving right along. Next thing I wanted to bring up, in the last podcast, I brought up Terraformer, which is a decentralized exchange aggregator on Terra, which brings together all of the different pools from all of the automated market makers, all of the decentralized exchanges on Terra, and aggregates the pools so you can get the best slippage and save yourself a bit of money when you're doing swaps. DanQR mentioned in a recent podcast the Rango exchange, which I had not heard of before, so I decided to check it out. And these guys take it one step further. They're basically almost like a DEX aggregator, but multi-chain. As you can see from this image here, they cover all these chains. I tried it out and it's pretty smooth when you consider the pain points of moving funds between different blockchains. Can be a bit complex, especially when you've got different bridges between different networks. It's very confusing the first few times you do it. But with Rango, you can just come straight in and swap from, obscure altcoin A to obscure altcoin B across multiple blockchains, and it does it all for you and takes care of all the details. It tells you how it's going to route it, and you've just got to basically wait for the transactions to pop up, linked to your various wallets on those blockchains, hit go, and it takes care of everything. So in this example here, I've got 100 Matic, and I'm trying to swap it to the mirror version of Amazon on Terra. So going from Polygon to Terra, and it shows you how it would do it. So it's $170 worth, this trade, just as a theoretical exercise. Starts off with Matic on Polygon. It routes it through 1 inch, swaps it to USDC on Polygon, and then bridges the USDC, I think, via AnySwap to Binance Smart Chain, which swaps it to UST, and then bridges it to Terra, and then it swaps that UST on Terra for Amazon. So that whole process is going through three chains, and the total fee is like $3 for a $170 trade. So pretty reasonable. Takes about 15 minutes because you've got to wait for the transactions to finalize on each blockchain. So it's a slow process going into chain quite often, unless you're used to using the IBC, of course. And but this is a really, really handy tool. So thank you to DanQR for bringing that up on my radar. They do have an airdrop coming, I believe. So it might be worth doing a few swaps through this just as an airdrop farm. And I think the top 1,000 users by volume will actually receive 10% of their airdrop, like of the whole allocation, which is pretty crazy. They've also got some gamification stuff in here where you can earn badges for trading on different blockchains, that type of thing. So pretty cool little project. Check them out. It's app.rango, rango.exchange. Very handy tool to have in your back pocket. Okay, so next up, I wanted to mention Loop Finance and the good work that they've been doing. They've been somewhat overlooked, I think, in terms of all the hype around Astroport, but Loop, I think they were pretty much the first decentralized exchange to spin up independent of TerraSwap, of course. Unfortunately for them, I think the token is basically pretty well farmed and dumped, which you can see in the charts here. It's a pretty sick looking chart when you go back from its all-time high, at around 27 cents. It's down to about 8 cents. But the big issue I have is there's just a lot of sell pressure from people farming and dumping. So that's an issue in itself that the team will probably have to try and overcome over time. It's not that uncommon in DeFi though, to be fair. And I guess the reason that it does get farmed and dumped is because they have really high APYs to attract, the total volume locked that they want to get to try and make the protocol sustainable. So it's always a balancing act with farming tokens. But one thing I really wanted to mention is they've got some new pools on here, which is really useful, especially for the people that are involved with Prism. We've got the C Luna and Y Luna token as a pool now. There's also P Luna in here somewhere as well. So there hasn't been a whole lot of utility for P Luna previously, but now you can at least LP with it. So you could pair it with C Luna and P Luna. So C Luna is your staked Luna within the Prism protocol before you refract it and split it up into the Y and P parts. But a lot of people in Prism have a bunch of P Luna sitting there while it's idle because they don't want to lose that exposure. So one thing they could do is add it to the C Luna pool here and have pretty low impermanent loss, you would hope, and pick up some extra yield. Now, just on top of that, the Edge protocol has also listed P Luna as an asset that you can now borrow and lend against. You can't use it as collateral yet. So you can't, I don't believe you can't use it to borrow against it, but you can provide it for other people to borrow. So it's very low rates because there's not much you can do with this yet. But one thing I wanted to highlight is you could come along and borrow it for pretty low percentage, pair it with C Luna on Loop and start getting, 20 odd % or more returns. Now, there's always risks involved. This is paid out in the Loop token, so your yield's going to be dependent on the Loop token. And when you come into these pools, you are locked for at least 1 week, I believe. But that's a little strategy, a little farming strategy that might be useful for some people if they want to weigh up the risks and work out if it's worth it, especially if you've got a bunch of P Luna sitting in your wallet and maybe just some Luna sitting around that you're looking to deploy and earn extra yield off. So I just wanted to raise that. But the really cool thing I'm liking about Loop is this Loop Learn that they've spun up. So they've got a bunch of DeFi videos, educational videos around blockchain in general, Terra, and there's a whole heap more coming. I believe they struck a partnership with Terra to do this, and they used the same production company to make the videos that Terra initially used. So we'll just give this a quick watch because I think these are brilliant and they're fantastic to push out to new people trying to come into the ecosystem and just to crypto in general. So definitely give them a look. It's looplearn.io will get you to the website and then it reroutes to this page here. But let's just give this a quick watch to give you an idea of the quality of the videos because they're fantastic.
What is Terra Luna? Terra Luna was founded in 2018 in South Korea. The mission, to bring forth the mass adoption of cryptocurrency and decentralized finance to the mainstream. Terra has created a new form of decentralized money and is building a decentralized financial ecosystem on top of it. To create a global decentralized payment currency, price stability is required. However, the volatility of crypto assets has until now acted as a deterrent to wide mainstream adoption. The native coins of blockchains such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and others are highly volatile in nature, and their native coins are required to transact and for the payment of fees on their networks. Merchants are more reluctant to adopt cryptocurrencies that aren't stable in price and could even drop significantly overnight. This is where Terra is different. A decentralized algorithmic stablecoin called Terra USD, or UST for short, was created as the main payment currency of the Terra network. This creates a seamless bridge between the fiat currency world and the crypto world by using a stable payment currency instead of a volatile crypto asset. The second part of
So yeah, you get the idea, but I think these are fantastic. I plan to watch each and every one, and I'll probably try and pass them on to as many people as I can because they're such a brilliant example of, breaking down a lot of these concepts that are really difficult to understand when you're first getting into it, and being able to do it all in such a professional way with really good graphics just makes it so much more digestible for people to understand what's going on. So give them a look. It's looplearn.io. I'll be watching them quite closely, and I'll definitely be forwarding them on to my friends and family. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos.